Luke, the 12th chapter. The glory to you, O Lord. There it is. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Friend, who set me to be judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly, and he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "I'll do this. I'll pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I'll store all my grain and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to them, 'You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be?' So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God." The gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. It's not very often that we get a reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. In fact, in the 3-year cycle of readings, which we usually follow, called the lectionary, the only time we read something from Ecclesiastes is today, the Sunday that falls every 3 years between July 31st and August 6th. There is one exception for you church geeks out there. New Year's Eve would be the other one, but on Sundays anyways. So I want to start with Ecclesiastes because we never get to it, or we rarely get to it. The author, and Dick reminded us that it could very well be King Solomon. The author is clearly someone who has it all, but nevertheless is still discontent with life. He had looked at his life, he had looked at the life of others around him and determined that it was all cyclical, repetitive, same things over and over again. The sun comes up and the sun goes down. The sun comes up and the sun goes down. Or the seasons. It's summer, fall, winter, spring. And guess what? Summer, fall, winter, spring. Or the events of the last 24 hours remind me it's mass shootings and thoughts and prayers. Mass shootings and thoughts and prayers. Over and over. You know, life can be like that sometimes. Some of us have a rather standard routine. Get up with the alarm clock. Wander over to the coffee. Coffee's always waiting for me. Wander over to the coffee pot. Get coffee. Let the dog out. Get ready. Shower. Whatever else. Go to work. Do whatever I do there. I know some of you wonder what I do. Do whatever it is that I do there. Go home for supper. Go to some meetings. Go home. Get ready for bed, which includes setting up the coffee so it's waiting for me the next morning. And go to bed. And guess what? The next day, get up, go to get the coffee, okay. You might be thinking that in your own life from time to time, right? You know, life does have a way of repeating itself. But this guy, who could have been King Solomon, looked for some meaning because he looked at the repetitiveness of life and he wasn't finding it. He looked for meaning by pursuing wisdom. He looked for meaning by pursuing pleasure. He looked for meaning by pursuing even more wealth. He looked for meaning by pursuing power. He looked for meaning by pursuing religion. Yes, religion too, but nothing seemed to satisfy him. Absolutely nothing. There was this restlessness within him. He could have sung what Bono of U2 sang in the 80s. And I still haven't found what I'm looking for. In fact, it was so bad that the author concluded that everything was simply vanity of vanities. The Common English Bible translation has that as perfectly pointless. The Message version says smoke. Nothing but smoke. I don't know what translation is, but it's also meaningless. Everything's meaningless. It's all of those things because it's not anything but a repeating cycle, right? It's perfectly pointless because even in this repeating cycle, everything seems so temporary, short-lived. I did this on Wednesday. I'm going to do it again. Here's the sermon. Do I have any kids here? Oh, I got kids here. Would they come forward? Will you come here? Bubbles, bubbles. All is bubbles. You blow them, and they look so pretty. They catch the light, the full spectrum of the rainbow colors are in there. Bubbles are so fun and mesmerizing. Look at them. I just want to do this the rest of the service. Bubbles, bubbles everywhere. So pretty. And then they're gone. And then they're gone. And then they're gone. The writer of Ecclesiastes determined that that happens in his life as well. He works his tail off. Maybe it's in building a business. Maybe it's in building his investment portfolio. Maybe it's getting ready for retirement, whatever it might be. Works his tail off only to know that he's going to die and someone else is going to get it. It's gone, right? And it can be gone in a moment too. Vanity of vanities. Bubbles, bubbles. All is bubbles. Everything's meaningless. Even the part of Ecclesiastes that we might know, not from the lectionary apparently, because it's not in the it's not today's text. That part that we think is oh so beautiful. For everything there is a season. Right? You ever heard this one? For everything there's a season, a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die. You know that song maybe? A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. Oh, a time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. It is all meaningless is what he's saying. He doesn't say it's all beautiful. He's not saying that war is beautiful or hate is beautiful. He's saying that there's a time for love and a time for hate. Where do you find meaning in that? Vanity of vanities. Oh, please. You can hear him almost pleading. And I'm pleading today too. There has got to be something more than this. And the more I'm talking about Ecclesiastes, I don't know about you, but I'm really kind of feeling down every time we talk about Ecclesiastes. There's got to be something more. Meaningless, meaningless, bubbles, bubbles, vanity of vanities, perfectly pointless. Well, I've got to explore this just a little bit more. Because we get to that parable that I read in the Gospel according to Luke about that rich farmer. He's doing so well that he doesn't have any room for his crops to be stored. So he thinks, what should I do? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll tear down my perfectly good barns. Boy, this sounds like municipal economics, I think. You tear down perfectly good barns, and I'm going to put up bigger ones. I'm feeling pretty pleased with myself. Now look at all the stuff that I've got. And he talks to himself. You know why he's talking to himself? He doesn't have anyone in his life that he can talk to. He's been so focused on what's important to him. Stuff, stuff, and more stuff. There's no time for people. That's the tragedy in this story. Anyways, he talks to himself, eat, drink, and be merry, which is actually also an echo of the book of Ecclesiastes. You'll find that same phrase in the book of Ecclesiastes. And then we learn that vanity of vanities, he dies. Perfectly pointless. There has got to be something more than this. Have you ever felt that way? And not only in the daily routine, I suppose, of get up, go get your coffee that's waiting for you. I think we all do from time to time when we're maybe getting worn down by the rat race of life, or we're getting tired running on that hamster wheel and going nowhere. But what I want us to walk away with today is not getting depressed about how perfectly pointless everything seems to be, but what I want you to walk away with is the answer to the cry, there must be something more. There must be something more than the redundant, repetitive cycle of days or seasons. There must be something more than trying to get more and more stuff. Because there is. All right? Because there is. And I go back to this parable of that farmer. After telling the story of the farmer, right? Jesus said, so it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God. The something more here is being rich toward God. That's the meaning here. And how are we rich toward God? Jesus told us, love and serve God. I said I was going to say this twice. Love and serve God by loving and serving others. Love and serve God whom you cannot see by loving and serving people whom you can see. This apparently is something the farmer in our parable did not even consider. Our reading from Colossians tells us where and how we can experience that something more. Dick read, so if you've been raised with Christ, and the parenthetical phrase that comes after that, in my mind, so if you've been raised with Christ, and you have, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. So, where has your focus been this last week? What have you been pondering, ruminating over, considering throughout the day? The daily grind? Or the divine? Struggles of trying to get ahead? Or the blessing of knowing and experiencing that you don't have to do anything to get ahead with God. You don't have to do anything to earn God's love because God has done it all for you in Jesus Christ. Where's your focus been? But more importantly, where's it going to be today? Even in Ecclesiastes, in this very book of reflection, seeking, observing, and being absolutely depressed because it's all pointless anyways, even in Ecclesiastes, the final thought in the whole book is this: the end of the matter. All has been heard, and here it is. Fear God and keep God's commandments, for that's the whole duty of everyone. Fear being honor, fear being holding in awe, fear being loving. There has got to be more. And there is. It is knowing and experiencing the overwhelming, unconditional love and graciousness of God. It is living as a follower of Jesus. That means aligning our ways and our thoughts and our priorities with Jesus' ways, thoughts, and priorities. It is, here's a second time, loving God by loving and serving people around us. How are you going to do that today? How are we as a nation going to do that today? With so many people dead from mass shootings in the last 24 hours. How are we going to love and serve God? By loving and serving people. I don't have how, but I think we need to focus on that. But again, today, what I want you to go away with is the answer to the question, there's got to be something more, to the lament, there's got to be something more. And there is. It's a life lived in God. And that's for you. Today. Right now. Amen.